God's own people should be the more jealous of themselves with respect to this particular at this day, because the temptations that many have to this sin are exceeding great, to great and distinguishing privileges to which God admits many of his saints, and the high honors he puts on some pastors or great trials of persons in this respect. It is true, the great degrees of the spiritual presence of God tends greatly to mortify pride and corruption. But yet, though when he experiences such favors, there may be much to restrain pride one way. There is much to tempt and provoke it another. And we shall be in great danger by this, without great watchfulness and prayerfulness. The angels that fell, while in heaven, had great honors and high privileges in beholding the face of God, and viewing his infinite glory, to cause in them exercises of humility, and to keep them from pride. Yet, through lack of watchfulness in them, the great honor and heavenly privilege proved to be to them an undoing, a temptation to pride, though they had no principle of pride in their hearts to expose them. Let no saint, therefore, however eminent, and however near to God, think himself out of danger. He that thinks himself most out of danger is indeed most in danger. The Apostle Paul, who doubtless was an eminent saint as any now, was not out of danger, even just as he was admitted to see God in the third heaven, 2 Corinthians 12. Yet doubtless what he saw in heaven of the ineffable glory of the divine being had a direct tendency to make him appear exceeding little and vile in his own eyes. Spiritual pride in its own nature is so secret that it is not so well discerned by immediate intuition on the thing itself, as by the effects and fruits of it, some of which I would mention together with the contrary fruits of pure Christian humility. Spiritual pride disposes to speak of other persons' sins, their enmity against God and his people, the miserable delusion of hypocrites, and their enmity against vital piety, and the deadness of some saints with bitterness, or with laughter and levity, with an air of contempt, whereas pure Christian humility rather disposes either to be silent about them, or to speak of them with great grief and pity. Spiritual pride is very apt to suspect others, whereas an humble saint is most jealous of himself. He is so suspicious of nothing in the world as he is of his own heart. The spiritually proud person is apt to find fault with other saints, that they are low in grace, and there be much in observing how cold and dead they are, and being quick to discern and take notice of their deficiencies. But the eminently humble Christian has so much to do at home, and sees so much evil in his own heart, and is so concerned about it, that he is not apt to be very busy with other hearts. He complains most of himself, and complains of his own coldness and lowness and grace. He is apt to esteem others better than himself, and is ready to hope that there is nobody but what has more love and thankfulness to God than he, and cannot bear to think that others should bring forth no more fruit to God's honor than he. Some who have spiritual pride mixed with high discoveries and great transports of joy, disposing them in an earnest manner to talk to others, are apt in such frames to be calling upon other Christians about them, sharply reproving them for being so cold and lifeless. There are others who in their raptures are overwhelmed with the sense of their own vileness, and when they have extraordinary discoveries of God's glory, are all taken up about their own sinfulness. And though they are also disposed to speak much and very earnestly, yet it is very much in blaming themselves, and exhorting fellow Christians, but in a charitable and humble manner. Pure Christian humility disposes a person to take notice of everything that is good in others, and to make the best of it, and to diminish their failings, but to have his eye chiefly on those things that are bad in himself, and to take much notice of everything that aggravates them. In a contrariety to this, it has been the manner in some places, or at least the manner of some persons, to speak of almost everything that they see amiss in others, in the most harsh, severe, and terrible language. It is frequent with them to say of others' opinions or conduct or advice, or of their coldness, their silence, their caution, their moderation, their prudence, and so on, that they, or from the devil, or from hell, that such a thing is devilish, or hellish, or cursed, and that such persons are serving the devil, or the devil is in them, that they are soul murderers and the like, so that the words devil and hell are almost continually in their mouths, and such kind of language they will commonly use not only towards wicked men, but towards them who they themselves allow to be the true children of God, and also towards ministers of the gospel and others who are very much their superiors. And they look upon it as a virtue and a high attainment thus to behave themselves. Oh, they say, we must be plain-hearted and bold for Christ. We must declare war against sin wherever we see it. We must not mince a matter in the cause of God and when speaking for Christ, and to make any distinction in persons, or to speak the more tenderly, because that which is amiss is seen in a superior, they look upon as very mean for a follower of Christ when speaking in the cause of his master. What a strange device of the devil is here, to overthrow all Christian meekness and gentleness, and even all show an appearance of it, and to defile the mouths of the children of God, and to introduce a language of common sailors among the followers of Christ, under a cloak of high sanctity and zeal, and boldness for Christ. And it is a remarkable instance of the weakness of the human mind, and how much too cunning the devil is for us. The grand offense of this way of talking is, that they say no more than what is true. They only speak the truth without mincing a matter, and that true Christians who have a great sight of the evil of sin and acquaintance with their own hearts know it to be true, and therefore will not be offended to hear such harsh expressions concerning them and their sins. It is only, they say, hypocrites, or cold and dead Christians that are provoked and feel their enmity rise on such an occasion. But it is a grand mistake to think that we may commonly use all such language as represents the worst of each other, according to strict truth. It is really true that every kind of sin, and every degree of it, is devilish and from hell, and is cursed, hellish, and condemned or damned. And if persons had a full sight of their hearts, they would think no terms too bad for them. They would look like beasts, like serpents, and like devils to themselves. They'd be at a loss for language to express what they see in themselves. But shall a child of God, therefore, from time to time use such language concerning an excellent and eminently holy father or mother, as that the devil is in them? That they have such and such devilish cursed dispositions, that they commit every day hundreds of hellish damned acts, and that they are cursed dogs, hellhounds, and devils? And shall the meanest of the people be justified in commonly using such language concerning the most excellent magistrates, or the most eminent ministers? I hope nobody has gone to this height. But the same pretenses of boldness, plain-heartedness, and declared war against sin will as well justify these things as the others. If we proceed in such a manner, on such principles as these, what a phase will be introduced upon the Church of Christ, the little beloved flock of that gentle shepherd, the Lamb of God. What a sound shall we bring into the house of God, into the family of his dear little children? How far off shall we soon banish that lovely appearance of humility, sweetness, gentleness, mutual honor, benevolence, complacence, and an esteem of others above themselves, which ought to clothe the children of God all over, not but that Christians should watch over one another, in any wise reprove one another, and do it plainly and faithfully. But it does not thence follow that dear brethren in the family of God, in rebuking one another, should use worse language than Michael the archangel dared use when rebuking the devil himself. Christians who are but fellow worms ought at least to treat one another with as much humility and gentleness as Christ, who is infinitely above them, treats them. But how did Christ treat his disciples when they were so cold towards him, and so regardless of him, at the time when the soul was exceeding sorrowful even unto death, and he in a dismal agony was crying and sweating blood for them, and he would not watch with them and allow them the comfort of their company 1 hour in his great distress, though he once and again desired it of them? One would think that then was a proper time, if ever, to have reproved them for a devilish, hellish, cursed, and damned slothfulness and deadness. But after what manner does Christ reprove them? Behold, his astonishing gentleness. He says, What? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And how did he treat Peter when he was ashamed of his master, while he was made a mocking stock and a spitting stock for him? Why, he looked upon him with a look of love, and melted his heart. And though we read that Christ once turned and said unto Peter on a certain occasion, Get thee behind me, Satan, and this may seem like an instance of harshness and severity in reproving Peter, yet I humbly conceive that this is by many taken wrong, and that this is indeed no instance of Christ's severity in his treatment of Peter, but on the contrary of his wonderful gentleness and grace, distinguishing between Peter and the devil in him, not laying the blame of what Peter had then said, or imputing it to him, but to the devil that influenced him. Christ saw the devil in presence secretly influencing Peter to the depart of a tempter to his master, and therefore Christ turned him about to Peter, in whom the devil then was, and spake to the devil, and rebuked him. Thus the grace of Christ does not behold iniquity in his people, imputes not what is amiss in them to them, but to sin that dwells in them, and to Satan that influences them.